Hello and welcome to Alternative Living Chats podcast. This week I chatted to Kay and Paul who live on Narrowboat Old Nick. This boat is a hybrid electric. I hope you enjoy the chat. Please remember to review and save the podcast ready for the next chat. And if you would like to join me for a conversation, drop me a message at nevertoolateourjourney@gmail.com or just leave me a message on any of my social media platforms. Thank you ever so much for listening.
Hello, and today's podcast is with Kay and Paul, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and I hope you enjoy today's podcast. So if you'd like to introduce yourselves, please.
Hi, well, I'm Paul Sumner. I'm an electronics design engineer and living and working on Old Nick.
And I'm Kay, and I'm retired. Hurrah!
Very nice. And I will tell the listeners as well, because you've got your beautiful dog there. And what's is it him, he, or she?
That's he. That's Bill. He's one of a pair of brothers border terriers that we have called Bill and Ted.
Oh, fabulous. Lovely terriers. That's great. So how long have you been living on the boat?
Well, this will coming up to
2 years.
2 years, yeah, in December.
Oh, brilliant. And where did you start your cruising from?
Well, we've been cruising for many years, probably too many to mention, but always on mostly on Kay's dad's boat. And he's actually the Nick in Old Nick. We wanted to remember him, and it seemed apt to name our boat after him.
Although everybody thinks Paul is Old Nick, which upsets him quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm going to get a t-shirt. No, I'm young Paul.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we've done a lot of canalling, mainly on the sort of popular bits. And we used to get, at least a couple of weeks every year on board Kate Dad's boat. And then we've always wanted to have a narrowboat of our own. And so we're not getting any younger. So we decided back in 2017 to bite the bullet. And then we couldn't sell the house. And then COVID came along and delays and everything. But eventually, at the beginning of December 2020, we saw our dream come true.
Oh, fantastic. And so where did you get your boat from? What length?
It's a company called Auto Marine, who have been in the business for quite a few years, but have recently started building solely boats that have some form of electric propulsion on them, which is we are an electric serial hybrid narrowboat.
Right. Do you want to can you just explain that to people and myself, because I don't know.
Means that we have an electric engine. We have a great big wodge of solar power and a great big battery bank, and the solar power charges the batteries, and the batteries make the boat turn the propeller, make the boat go along with the electric engine. It's and in the summer we can cruise 3 or 4 days without any problem, purely on solar or using the batteries. And on dull days, just occasionally, we have a generator on board, a very efficient, low revving generator inside a box under the deck, which we can deploy if there's not enough solar coming in to charge our batteries.
That's brilliant. That really is. And so the only diesel then you'll have to buy then is just for your generator, is it? Yeah.
Yep, just for the generator, and that also we have a Eberspacher. So in the winter, we use a fair bit of the diesel for heating the boat.
Most narrowboats have gas on board. We don't have any gas at all. We're purely electric.
Oh, right.
And we don't have any sort of solid fuel burner or anything. So the only heating we've got is radiators that are heated by the Eberspacher.
And it's toasty.
I can imagine it is. We have one of those. We do have a wood burner as well, but we have the central heating on, and it's amazing how quickly we've found, because we've only been on for 7 months now, and it is amazing how quickly an narrowboat heats up, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is. And also one of the reasons we went with Auto Marine to build our boat was that they are very techie. I mean, Rob comes from the industrial process engineering background, and so we could control just about everything on the boat, from his little colour touchscreen
on our mobile
display.
phones.
Yeah, and on our mobile phones.
Or our laptops.
So
That's
much as you might turn on your heating using Hive if you're in a home, we can do the same on the boat. So if we're 30, 40 minutes away, just pop the heating on and it's nice and warm by the time we get back to the boat. So it's brilliant.
Wow. And you know, do you have many issues or anything like that? Have you had them since you've been living on board with, because it's you know, the new technology and everything?
No, I mean, technology's been rock solid. I mean, my background is in electronics design, so I know the sort of things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
And we've been very, very lucky, touch wood. You know, we've not had any problems with the technology. I mean, Rob's system is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it never misses a beat. It's very, very reliable.
Automate.
Yeah.
ORTOMATE. And Automarine is not AUTO as it sounds, it's ORTO. Automarine. Right. Yeah.
And so
I would say they're probably the leading electric narrowboat manufacturer, certainly the one with the most number of boats out there and most experience.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So all your cooking's done with an electric, as obviously.
Yeah, I've got an induction hob and I've got a Neff hide and slide oven, just as I had at home.
Yeah, and there's no issues whatsoever in that.
Not at all. No, I think it's fair to say that we pretty much live on our boat as we lived at home.
Yeah, that's really,
you
really
wouldn't
good.
notice any different. Yeah.
What's
maybe
your
the
favorite?
only thing would be
Sorry, no, go on. You go, Paul.
Probably the only thing we do have to just sort of compromise a bit on is hot water, because we, you know, particularly with the electricity prices at the moment, it's we tend to boil a kettle if we want to do some washing up.
Yeah.
And if we're going to have showers, we'll just pop the hot water on for an hour rather than have it come on sort of 2-3 times a day to heat up. We just
last winter we did, when the electricity was a lot cheaper, but it's almost tripled where we moor, so it makes sense. But Rob's system, the Automate thing, also has an eco mode, so that when we're on shore power, when the sun starts shining in the morning, it clicks over to solar power. So anything we use is from solar power all day until sort of about, I don't know, 4 o'clock-ish. When the solar tails off, it clicks back to shore power. So that saves us money and is obviously greener as well, because we're not using resources, we're just using solar power to live.
That's absolutely fantastic, especially if you can switch over as well, and especially seeing as the electricity has gone absolutely sky high. I mean, you've got to the best of both worlds there, so at least you can still, even though you're on shoreline, you can get the best of your boat, you know, while you're there. Which is good.
Amazing how much solar does come in, even in the depths of winter.
Yeah.
If there's any sun about, we grab it. We've got 1.8.
Yeah, 1.9 kilowatts of solar panels.
Oh, right.
And like yesterday, I had I think it was 4.8 kilowatt hours. So that is 65p a kilowatt hour at the moment for electricity. It's a, you know, it's a saving every day, and worth having.
Definitely. So how many solar have you got? Is the whole of the boat covered in solar panels?
The roof,
we got 12 of them. We had to fiddle things around a bit because you know, we had to make sure the vents were positioned between the panels. We didn't have we got a folding gangplank that rather than have a gangplank on the roof, we're taking up room. We don't have a chimney, so that didn't get in the way. And the sort of antennas for the internet that we've got, those are right back by the hatch. So again, they don't take up any of the roof space. So
and they look like little yogurt pots, so they're quite unobtrusive and really effective. Yeah, because it's so important for Paul to have a good Wi-Fi, because he works from home. He runs, you know, he can't. Yeah. He can't be without a Wi-Fi signal. Yeah, and we never have been, to be fair. And in fact, we stream all our television. We never watch through a TV aerial. Everything we watch in the evenings is streamed.
That's brilliant. That's really good. Which network are you with?
Well, I've got 2 SIM cards, a EE one, which we tend to use most. That seems to have the best coverage. And then for the odd occasion when EE is a bit weak, we've got a Vodafone SIM that we can switch to.
and unlimited data.
That's really, really good. And so what would you say has been your worst moment since moving on to a boat? Have you got a worst moment at all?
I can't think of anything, to be honest.
I mean, the condensation gets a bit, it's a bit of a pain in the winter.
Yeah, we've got double glazing, but the windows are metal framed, and that's where the water, where the condensation sits on the metal frame. So in the evenings, we have to sort of wipe the frames 3 or 4 times in an evening. We do run a dehumidifier, and that has made a difference, but there's still, I think that's the only slight niggle is condensation, and I don't know how you get around that apart from having, I don't know, plastic flame windows or something, which I don't know, but it's eminently livable with.
Yes, that's it. It's not something major, isn't it? Is it really? Which is fantastic.
Not necessarily running back to shore.
And so, what would you say is your best moment since living on the boat?
I think it's the peace and quiet. Because we are electric, we make no noise when we cruise, and so we can see, wildlife is not so disturbed by our presence, and neither are fishermen. And in fact,
I'm just thinking that
it feels a bit rude to sort of toot to say that we're on our way.
Yeah.
But I've developed a system of loud coughing so that they can hear us coming. So that otherwise that we would just, they genuinely don't know where they also, where did you come from?
Yeah, we've had a few almost fall off their stalls as we've crept up on.
I think it's the peace and the fact that actually it's a bit of a talking piece. Everywhere we go, people want to know about the boat, and people always say, "Well done, you," and all that sort of thing.
Yeah,
and it was a more expensive option than a conventional boat,
and it was also a bit of a leap of faith as well, because there weren't that many boats around that had done it. Maybe only 2 or 3 that were sort of notable, and you could find information about them.
And also the engine that we chose is a Vetus E-line engine, and Vetus are famous for their diesels, and they've been in the market for years. But we were the first narrowboat, certainly, and possibly the first boat in the UK to have the Vetus electric engine fitted. So they watched the build with great interest, and report back to them on how it's all been. And we couldn't be more pleased.
That's absolutely fantastic. And as you say, a leap of faith, because I mean, it's a big thing. I mean, you're putting a lot of money into something, and you've got to obviously make sure it's going to work for you. And I mean, we've had ours built because it got delayed because of COVID and things, but we'll say we've been on for 7 months.
No story.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. And we looked at a few bit different places about the electrical, but we weren't brave enough. But I've seen a couple of, since we've been out on the cut, we've seen a couple of electric boats go past us. And I mean, as you say, there's just no noise whatsoever. I mean, they do make you jump. It's like stealth mode as you go around the canals.
It's.
I think the fact that Paul is a highly technical guy, and was able to participate to quite a big extent in the build, so that he understood exactly how the boat was going to work. That's probably what gave us the confidence to go for it.
I mean, I actually felt more comfortable with an electric engine than I did a diesel engine, because I had to go on a course to learn how to service the diesel engine. But the electrics, at least I knew the theory and the practicals of using them.
Yeah.
So, but it's been very good.
And so, is there much?
And we've done.
Sorry.
No,
I was just going to say, do you have
1,000? Oh, okay, you go.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, I was just going to say, with maintenance, is there a lot of maintenance involved? Any more maintenance than a normal?
No, much less actually. It's the diesel generator that we have to regularly service every year. The electric engine, it just gets on and works.
Our stern tube gland was always a daily job on my dad's boat.
Yeah.
As you went to bed each night, turn the stern tube gland. But we've got a
water gland, so it's a water lubricated gland that is made by Vetus, and it just needs a little bit of silicone grease every 6 months.
Oh, right.
And that's it. And
so that's taken a daily task out. And sometimes in the summer, we give, if it's been dry and dusty, we give the solar panels a wash.
Yeah.
So that they're at their most efficient.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I mean, the batteries are no maintenance. So I think it's probably less maintenance than a canal, though.
Definitely.
Yeah. And do you have, is it lithium batteries you have, or what?
No, we didn't. No, lithiums are great for if you're a 12-volt boat and you want to take your lead acids and replace them with lithiums, or use a sort of combination of them, then they're brilliant for that. And certainly I'd recommend those. But for electric propulsion, we'd have to have had 48-volt lithiums, and there's not that many around. And you can't just take different lithiums and stack them together and build up a 48-volt system. It's a bit problematic. Plus, they're all in the engine room, and lithiums don't like being much below about 5 degrees C. You can't charge them at low temperatures. So we ummed and ahed, and also our budget was not unlimited. So we went for lead carbons, which are based on lead acid, but they have a carbon film on all the electrodes. So problem with lead acids is that they die because they sulfate, and you get a sulfur build up on all the plates. With the lead carbons, you don't. The carbon stops that, and so you can use them very much like lithium. So you don't have to always charge them back up to 100% every time. You can go for days with them at sort of 60, 70, 80% charge.
We can put them on their side.
Yeah, they're on their side. There's no top up. We don't have to top them up or anything. They're completely sealed. So they were, probably if we'd had unlimited budget, we probably would have gone lithium. But lead carbon for a 48-volt electric propulsion boat is a very, very good alternative.
And we think that the batteries will probably outlive our life on the canal, let's say.
Yeah.
We'll keep going until we can't, sort of thing. But there are 3,000, we can take them down to 40%, 3,000 times. So that's, and we don't always take them down to 40%. Sometimes we tend to keep it between,
done it about half a dozen times.
We tend to keep it between 60 and 80%.
Yeah.
When we're out cruising.
So I think they'll last, way beyond 10,
and possibly
12 years.
The next owner of the boat as well.
Yeah. And how many batteries do you have?
24. And they're 48 kilograms each, so we don't need
a lot of ballast.
As I say, you don't need much ballast.
It literally is a wall of batteries in the engine room.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I didn't have to lift them in. That was Automarine. Bless them, did that. But no, they're quite impressive.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And sorry, Kay, I stopped you saying what you were going to say earlier. Is it how many?
Just say that this summer we've just got back from our summer 2022 cruise, and we did 1,072 kilometres.
That's impressive.
Between March and October. So we don't sit around all day. We get around.
And you've not had any problems with the stoppages, or have you've managed to bypass them?
We've dodged them, and that and low water, we weren't troubled at all by the low water. Maybe a little bit at the bottom, a little bit closer to the top than normal, but other than that, we just sort of cruised on by.
That's good.
We're hoping to go north next year, and hopefully the stoppages won't be as bad as they were this year. But we'll play it by ear. We've not got a solid plan for next year yet.
No, I think that's a lot of people in that boat, aren't they, at the moment? Because we just don't know what's going to happen. We just need some water, some rain, I think, don't we, to get it all to come back down again.
I just hope things like the Anderton lift, which we'd love to do and have never done in our in all our boating career, have never done, and I just hope that CRT can find the means to bring it back into action. It would be an absolute national disaster, really, if the lift weren't able to be used.
Yeah, I must admit that's one that we want to go on eventually, or fingers crossed that it actually does.
Yeah, but I think money is a big issue, isn't it? I think you can see it around the network, that things aren't as they should be always.
No, yeah, you can definitely see
that. Maintenance and even overhanging branches and things.
Yeah, it's
sadly.
Yeah, we saw that. It was funny. We were out at the beginning of the summer. We went up Tardybig, and there was one particular lock gate that was. I looked at it, and it was silver. And when I got closer, it was silver gaffer tape that they taped around to keep the gate together.
Oh my goodness!
And, the balance beam.
Yeah.
And so we thought, oh crikey! Well, so hopefully that'll be sorted out by the time we get back.
Yeah.
We came back at about October time. It was it was still gaffer taped up, but they changed it to black, and it matched a bit more.
It matched it.
Yeah, but I thought that was that to me sort of shows that people are trying, but they just don't have the money.
I don't want to come across as a CRT basher. When you think about, they've got 2,000 miles of waterway, and every structure, every bridge, every lock, every water point, they have to look after.
Yeah.
It's an unbelievably big task.
It is.
And I think the government need to step up and give the network more money. But is that going to happen?
No, I doubt it at the moment. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it is a big problem. I know. I mean, because obviously I'm going back when I grew up on boats and didn't do any boating for years and years. But I can remember. I mean, you used to have lock keepers at most of the locks because they used to have their house there and everything. It was when it was British Waterways and everything was. And it was paid for and kept up.
Yeah.
All people working for the company. And now it's obviously we rely on the volunteers so much, don't we?
Yeah, and contractors, which are going to be more expensive but then they only use the contractors when they want them. Whereas if you've got an employee, you've got to pay them all the time unless you do 0-hour contracts, and those are obnoxious.
Yeah,
so definitely. It's a really difficult one because you lose all that experience, that knowledge of if you have like in the old days when you had a linksman, they would know every inch of their part of the canal, and they just fix things before they even happened, and they'd just always be on top of it. And now it seems to be, everything's a reaction. Quick stick a plaster on that and move on to the next one. Or gaffer tape.
Gaffer tape. Yes. Yeah. It's worrying really, but hopefully things will start to getting better as we go on. So, what would you say is your favourite canal that you've been on?
Well, we've got a new favourite actually.
Have you?
We went on the Worley and Essington. We spent a lot of time on the BCN this summer, exploring all the little nooks and crannies.
Yeah.
And people make a fuss about Bowen and say, "Oh God, it's dirty. There's stuff in the water." Oh, la, la. But actually, my advice would be just do it. It's fantastic, and we absolutely loved it. But the Worley and Essington was probably our favourite, and the area around Pelsall Junction, I didn't want to leave. I actually felt quite tearful. We had about a week there.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to go. It was lovely. And we'd met a lot of dog walkers and people, "Oh, are you still here?" And, it was lovely. It was a real lovely time. So that's my new favourite canal at the moment.
Although it's funny, it's always your favourite's always the one you've done most recently, it seems. Because at the beginning of the summer, we did the Avon, which again, we'd never done, the River Avon. And that was fantastic. It was like we were...
It's not a canal.
I know it's not a canal, but that was lovely.
We absolutely loved the River
really
Avon. Yeah, we spent a month on there. It was
really good. And yet again, that was one where we'd been warned off. There's no moorings, and it's too many people. But I think as long as you pick your time right. I mean, we went there in May. It was like we're the only boat on the river at the time.
Particularly early mornings.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Really.
And we tend to cruise early mornings because Paul has to work.
Yeah.
So we get up about in the summer months. We get up about 6, do 3 or 4 hours cruising. Well, 3 hours probably, and then pull over for the day. And Paul does his work. Sometimes we go on again in the evening because there's plenty of daylight. So I think we both at the best time of day.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet you do. It's we've only done one early-ish cruise really early in the morning, and I think that was my favourite because it was just it was so quiet and peaceful, and you just saw so much more than
it's going special, isn't it?
Yeah. It's definitely the nicest one. So that's really good. What one bit of advice would you give to any new narrowboaters and out there? Would you say?
do your research.
Yeah.
Take off the rose-tinted spectacles, but do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure you get your boat that you're going to buy surveyed. That would be a big.
Yeah. And also try and have at least a week or a 2-week holiday on a narrowboat.
Preferably in the winter.
I mean, you hear people that just just give up everything and just buy a boat, and just because they think they've got an idea that's going to be great, and they've seen vlogs and various
Cruising
other
the Cup.
and there are downsides to it, but and to go into it with your eyes open and read up and research on it, I think is the best as well.
But we quite often pinch ourselves and say, how lucky are we to be actually living the dream, because it's been our dream and we're now doing it. So, and not everybody is fortunate enough to actually be able to do that. So we feel very, very privileged.
That's brilliant. That's really good. And so anybody obviously listening to this, they can follow you on Twitter, and are you on any other social media?
We've got a website. We're on Facebook. There's an Old Nick Facebook page. We've also got a website, which is thesumpnersafloat.com, or so the Sumpners Afloat is all one word, .com. And that details all the technical stuff to do with the build, which Paul writes. And then I write the sort of, daily diary type thing.
It's quite useful for somebody who's interested in electric narrowboats and is thinking seriously about having one. There's lots of useful information. All the information that I could have done with when we made the decisions. I try to put it on there just so that other people don't have to take quite a bigger leap of faith.
That's brilliant. And what I'll do is I'll get all that information from you, and I'll put that when the podcast goes out in a few weeks' time. I'll put all the information there so that everybody can just look at that. And
we're on Instagram as well. I've just remembered.
That's it. So I'll put all the links and everything in the notes for the podcast, so everybody can join you. And if they've got any questions, they can give you a shout.
Absolutely. If they go to our website, there's a contact page, and we're pretty responsive. So if anybody's got quick queries, we're happy to help.
That's really, really good. So thank you ever so much for having a chat today. And it sounds amazing about, and I love the idea that it's all electric, and that you obviously can be powered off the sun.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Thanks ever so much.
Nice to talk to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening, and I hope you have found the conversation as interesting as I did. If you're wanting to follow Old Nick, the details are in the description of the episode. I look forward to bringing you another chat very soon.